What happens to a society that neglects its young men? We often act like the days of propaganda are long gone, faded away in wartime eras from decades ago. But if you look closely, it's happening all over again, with new, friendlier faces, but the exact same tactics. From gaming communities to fitness, productivity, and finance, everywhere young men turn today is being co-opted by radical ideologies. Why is this happening? How does a society that sets aside adolescent boys create a fertile ground for radicalization? How do modern social media radicalization tactics mirror history's most infamous movements? And what can we do about this? Starting with a truth that is hard to ignore, today's generation of males are lost and beginning to fall through the cracks. In almost every corner of the world, you'll find variations of the same story. Rising unemployment rates, loneliness at record highs, and a society that seems to fluctuate between mocking or ignoring their struggles. The expectations? Don't complain, be strong, and figure it out. The reality? A bunch of lost souls, isolated and compelled to search for a place where they matter. Here's the thing about neglecting them. It's not just harmful, it's dangerous. History has shown us the consequences of this in many shapes and sizes. When they feel abandoned, they don't just disappear. Instead, they tend to gravitate towards the people and ideologies that promise to fill the void. Take Germany post-World War I, for example. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, was brutal on the German economy, leaving much of the nation's working class, a generation of young men, angry, desperate, and ashamed. From the rubble of a broken nation came along someone who told them exactly what they wanted to hear. You're not the problem, they are. It's not difficult to picture why they accepted this. While we may look back on these events as sinister, they gravitated towards a sense of purpose from this silver-tongued stranger. That man, of course, was Adolf Hitler. Now, let's pretend this is just a history lesson. Today, neglected guys aren't rallying in public squares, they're opening their phones and going online. Whether it's a gaming community, a fitness forum, or a YouTube channel promising life hacks, these spaces are now more than hobbies, they're lifelines. But here's the twist. Wherever they go to find purpose or community, there's someone out there waiting to exploit them. It's in this endless hunt for new targets that things start to get scary. It's pretty wild. Imagine being a Chechen teenager, joining a gym to get fit, with aspirations of becoming a famous MMA fighter like your country's biggest stars. Next thing you know, someone's trying to sell you an ideology, trying to transform you into a warrior to fight some old man's battles. That's what life is like for a generation of youngsters living under a brutal ruler like Ramzan Kadyrov, head of the Chechen Republic. This cycle of feeling abandoned, seeking belonging, and falling into the wrong hands is far from new. It's something that has just evolved, and it's why empathy matters now more than ever. Because if the world keeps treating people like this as the enemy, it's only going to make them more vulnerable to radical ideologies. As a young man, if you're struggling with feelings of isolation and anger, please understand that therapy can be a critical part of recovery and healing. Talking to the right therapist can help you uncover the roots of these struggles and develop healthier ways of coping with your thoughts and emotions and the societal pressures that fuel them. Therapy isn't just about fixing problems, it's about understanding yourself and building a stronger foundation for the future, one that helps you break free from harmful cycles and avoid being drawn into negative influences. If you're not sure where to start with therapy, I highly recommend checking out our sponsor for today's episode, BetterHelp. Although I haven't personally dealt with addiction or some of the extreme challenges we'll explore in this video, I have faced my own battles with imposter syndrome. Spending time with a therapist helped me process those feelings and helped me learn to move past them. Today I'm in a much better place and I've gained the tools to better handle life's changes. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy accessible to everyone. By answering just a few quick questions, you can get matched with a licensed therapist in as little as a few days. And if the first therapist isn't the right fit, BetterHelp makes it easy to switch at no extra cost, so you can find someone you're truly comfortable with. You can have your sessions through video calls, phone calls, or even messaging, whatever works best for you. If you've ever thought about starting therapy but didn't know how to begin, BetterHelp is a great place to do it. Click the link in the description below or visit betterhelp.com/aperture to get 10% off your first month and take the first step towards understanding and improving your mental health. Back to our story. When adolescent men turn to online communities, they don't go in with grand ideas of world domination or politics. They're often looking for simple things like advice, connection, or even just a bit of escapism. Take fitness, for example. Some join communities where people discuss workout routines or motivational posts to keep up with health goals. It starts with stuff like "that which does not kill us makes us stronger," Friedrich Nietzsche. A simple and valid point, the young man craves for more, so he checks out Nietzsche, but not directly, instead as explained by a fitness influencer. Rather than dive into the complexities of Nietzsche's philosophy and its broader implications, the influencer oversimplifies and reframes ideas. An example is the Übermensch, someone who is superhuman. It's an idea proposed by Nietzsche on an ideal future human who is capable of creating values based on one's experience of life. This is often used to fit a narrative that aligns with the frustrations of a core population of males. In a manipulative fashion, the narrative subtly shifts from self-improvement to a dangerous ideology of individualism and superiority at the expense of others. What was once a philosophical idea on courage and free will turns into a chapter for a playbook on subservience and conformity. A younger, impressionable man still grappling with feelings of inadequacy finds this explanation comforting. It offers a sense of purpose, one that asks him to rise above others, to dominate, and to overcome weakness. Not through compassion and understanding, but through strength and exclusion. Yet for what feels like the first time ever, he's not receiving a "keep your head down and work hard" speech from his father. This influencer feels like an older brother who cares, and his charismatic delivery combined with an appealing lifestyle with flashy cars, bundles of cash, and a handful of women make the ideology seem both attainable and justified. From here, the radicalization process accelerates. The influencer might introduce other cherry-picked philosophical ideas or historical narratives, many of which we cover in our documentary about Broism, reinforcing a worldview centered on power, conflict, and resentment towards societal structures or marginalized groups. You hear things like, "the Matrix is attacking you." Instead of questioning the flaws or nuances, the young man accepts the influencer's words. Right or wrong ceases to matter in an attempt to find warmth away from his vulnerabilities. The same pattern emerges in spaces about making money. They might sign up to learn about side hustles or investing only to be bombarded with rhetoric about how society is rigged against them. And the only way to win is to become a member of a collective of enlightened men. These thrive on an us versus them mentality. You're either part of the tribe or you're one of the sheep. The actual money making is down to some limited edition method hidden behind a $5,000 masterclass. What ties all of this together is a calculated strategy. These infiltrators aren't just sharing ideas, they're targeting insecurities. Whether it's reclaiming masculinity, fighting the system, or simply finding purpose, the message is clear. You can be part of something bigger, but only if you think like us. The radicalization tactics we see online today mirror some of the most important movements in history, showing us just how little the blueprint has changed. Let's go back to the 1930s. Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda master of the Nazi regime, understood one critical idea: control the narrative and you control the people. Using this concept as a base for his actions, he was able to focus on crafting speeches carefully, creating visually striking rallies and producing a constant flow of ideological posters and films. He didn't only communicate ideas, he made them inescapable. Young German men weren't forced to be genocidal, they walked right into it. It doesn't have to make sense to the entire world, but rather to the target audience. Take it from Goebbels himself. It's not propaganda's task to be intelligent, its task is to lead to success. Now fast forward to today and replace posters with TikToks and rallies with internet communities, you'll see the same principles at play. Just as Goebbels tailored his propaganda to resonate with the desires and frustrations harbored by young Germans, modern-day influencers do the same thing through memes, live streams, and video essays. The tools may be new, the strategies are the same as the past. It's not just far-right influencing that's happening, neither is it a Western thing alone. Across almost all regions worldwide, you'll notice that radicalization has always been an all-too-effective leveraging tool. Take leaders like Shoko Asara's of Japan's Aum Shinriko Doomsday Cult, which was responsible for the devastating 1995 sarin gas attack on the Tokyo subway. Asara preyed on vulnerable individuals who felt disconnected from society, offering them a sense of purpose through the guise of spiritual enlightenment. He framed their struggles as an evidence of a corrupt world they were destined to one day rise above. In doing this, he was able to enlist experts from various educational and professional backgrounds. Many of his recruits came from fields like engineering, medicine, and biochemistry. Using their skills, he crafted an army capable of causing long-lasting devastation across Japan. By studying these historical parallels, one thing becomes crystal clear. Radicalization is rarely ever about the ideology itself. Instead, it's the delivery, the emotion, and most importantly, the promise of belonging. The methods are timeless, and their effectiveness is chilling. Why are young men such prime targets for radical movements? The short answer is a sense of belonging, but the long version comes down to a cocktail of personal struggles, cultural expectations, and human psychology. For many, life can feel like a constant audition. Growing up without any strong connections is tough. They're expected to prove their worth through strength, achievement, or independence, and when they fall short of these ideals, the resulting feelings of inadequacy become fertile ground for extremist ideologies. These movements offer a tempting solution, an immediate sense of purpose. It's like the desire to be part of something bigger immediately gets fulfilled, and they drift away from any outside voices. As part of a greater cause, the world becomes a battlefield where recruits are heroes fighting for a noble belief. Classic storytelling structures like the hero's journey make this more vivid in the eyes of the victims. That feeling where life places you as the protagonist, an outsider who goes through tough moments in order to become a champion. Radical ideologies tend to twist this narrative to their advantage, making it easier to sell an illusion of transformation. Pop culture reflects this draw. Characters like Tyler Durden from Fight Club or Arthur Fleck in Joker embody a spirit of rebellion against societal norms, and their stories heavily resonate with those who feel similarly alienated. But these tales skip over reality. Rebellion without reflection leads to destruction, not empowerment. Radical ideologies know this but don't care. They're far more interested in recruiting pawns than fostering true growth. The playbook for gaining access to individuals might be old, but the battlegrounds are constantly evolving. In the digital age, two spaces stand out. Extremist factions on platforms like Discord and online cults like the TikTok 7M group, which is known now for exploiting members while draining their bank accounts. Let's start with Discord, a social platform primarily for gamers. What was once a haven for young people with interests in gaming, anime, or any other online subculture has become fertile ground for radical organizations. Private servers allowed them to isolate their members, creating an opportunity to run echo chambers that reinforce their ideology. A 17-year-old League of Legends player stumbles upon a Discord server ripe with tips on how to improve his mechanics on a champion. On this server, he meets an expert with good gameplay, and he's willing to coach the teenager. Over time, they get close and become friends, and soon enough, conversations about gameplay mechanics shift to deeper topics like perceived societal injustices. It might start off with appetizers like a misogynistic meme. They share a few laughs, and they just brush it off as edgy humor. Unknown to him, those jokes can act as a gateway to more serious indoctrination. For those who are targeted on these sorts of platforms, the element of camaraderie is important for radicalization. As far as the victim is concerned, their indoctrinator feels like the only person in the world that understands them. This understanding comes with a lot of mirroring and preying on insecurities, but the victims don't know any better. According to the psychosocial model of recruitment and violent mobilization, it's believed that the process of radicalization follows several steps. Once accepted by their mark, recruiters engage them in these three phases. Psychological submission. In this phase, the young person loses their autonomy and becomes dependent on their friendship with the recruiter and other members. This is usually through persuasive and aggressive strategies like social isolation and inducing confusion between reality and fantasy. Political religious indoctrination. Here, the recruiter introduces a new ideology by using psychological manipulation techniques. These methods are similar to those used by cults and totalitarian regimes, such as the Nazi Hitler used, which aim to eliminate the personal identity of the target by reinforcing a new social identity upon them. Violent radicalization. In the final phase, the recruit accepts the use of violence as a way to protect their new group. They identify an enemy and accept any justification for making an attack essential to improving their situation. Today we're seeing some of the pages of the playbook thrown into the most unexpected spaces, even TikTok. TikTok's 7M cult, known now for accusations it drained members' bank accounts, is a prime example of the relatability and charisma involved in radicalization, in turn highlighting how these traits can be weaponized. Through viral dance videos, 7M promised creators spiritual enlightenment and financial success, drawing in thousands of followers. What helped in its effectiveness wasn't just the messaging, but the way its leader, Robert Shin, used catchy delivery and entertaining and social activities. By the time members realized they were in too deep, cut off from their previous lives and isolated in a new reality, anchored by the abusive and manipulative strategies crafted by Shin. These modern case studies reveal how much technology amplifies the tools of radicalization, making it easier to manipulate vulnerable individuals. Platforms that start as neutral or even positive spaces can quickly become battlegrounds for different ideologies, and the line between harmless engagement and harmful indoctrination is often razor thin. If radicalization thrives in isolation, then the antidote is connection. Young men are under pressure to be something, even by their peers. However, there's a beauty in acceptance of what is over what could be. Empathy is the most critical force in creating safe spaces for these vulnerable men to thrive. As a society, there's a need for healthier alternatives where alienated men can feel seen, valued, and heard. A critical part of this isn't in immediately weaponizing them, or anyone for that matter, into a good versus bad conflict. Instead, they deserve to live in communities that empathize inclusivity and growth without a catch. This goes beyond countering harmful movements and steps into equipping future generations with the resilience to resist them altogether.